And we'll wait a couple minutes, Beth, okay? If that's okay. Hi, Catherine.
Hello. We launched the virtual tour today. We introduced everybody to the virtual tour.
Oh, great.
Ooh.
Hi,
Yeah.
Jim.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so we're excited to get the feedback. So.
And is it helping admissions out?
Obviously.
Yeah, I think it's gonna really.
Hey, Jim. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
I don't see that. There we go. There's Fred. They keep coming in and out. I can't, how do you control that? It's like a ticker board just constantly changing. I see a couple people. There were a lot of people that signed up, but I know sometimes people sign up, but they may not join us. So we'll just wait a few more seconds. But Beth, I was able to get that to work.
Hello. I'm here for Dillon Catholic Jen Hart.
Okay.
Normally said she sits in, so.
Okay, well, welcome.
Thank you.
Why don't we get started? And thanks everybody again for joining another Brand Together Get Together every week. I think they're working out really well. I love the topics that we're able to kind of pull together and find every week. If anybody has topics they want to share with anybody in the future, definitely let me know. I hear so many amazing stories and success stories. I was on the phone with
Brenda,
somebody.
take your camera off.
Oops.
Oh,
What's that?
sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I was on the phone with a school today for a little while, and they're just doing such a great job with all of their connections with their families, and seniors was their major concern at that moment. But thank you. I just want to welcome everybody again. Beth Bailey, who is the Director of Marketing and Communications at the Harley School, is going to present today. They're up in Rochester, New York. The topic is bolstering the admissions pipeline through virtual open houses. And they are, again, I keep using this phrase, hitting it out of the ballpark, but they're definitely doing that really well with their virtual tours and their e-learning and the communications they're having with their families. They're doing a great job. And when they wanted to present and share so many stories, I thought it was like a perfect fit. You can always kind of tell with the amount of interest that people either in the past have talked about, or once I send out an e-blast, there's so many people that talk about this topic, so, or a topic that we're sending out. So you can always tell what the interest is and how high it is. So I want to introduce Beth. I'm going to share my screen. Again, I have a little bit of Zoom anxiety sharing the screen with another computer, but what I can do is I'm going to just click through it, and she's going to tell me when to move forward. But I want to introduce Beth right now. I don't know where she is. She's in here somewhere. There she is.
I'm still here, don't worry.
Okay, so I'll start the meeting. Do you want to say anything beforehand?
Sure, just to set the stage a little bit. First of all, thanks for having me. My colleague and our designer on staff, Lisa Lang, went to one of the conferences that you held in person. I believe it was last year or the year before, and was very excited about the work that Peapod is doing. So she did a little arm twisting and got me to break away from my regular schedule to hop on here. The Harley School itself, we are an independent school. We're over 100 years old in the state New York market, Rochester, New York. And we have roughly 500 students in nursery through 12th grade. Our market has one other independent school that is non-denominational that also runs nursery through K. And other than that, the other schools are all Catholic schools, actually. So just to give an idea of the landscape, if you will. Rochester is a fairly conservative city, and the city proper, I believe, has roughly 300,000 residents. So again, just to kind of set the stage a little bit. And you can hop ahead here, Jim.
Okay, and then can somebody just throw me like a lifeline? I'm trying to have it fit the full screen. I'm trying to I had it earlier, but I can't.
Yeah, you just need to get yourself to present mode.
Oh, okay, here we go.
Up at the top.
Where am I? Present mode.
Sometimes if you do present mode, it freezes. Just a FYI.
Is this the better way to do it, like this, you think?
I mean, it's pretty big, Jim. I'm sure people can see it just fine.
Okay. All right. So I'll leave it like this. So I'll go.
Okay. So again, just to give you a little idea of how Harley works, marketing and admissions sort of handle different parts of the pipeline. I'm sure many of you have that too, where you're kind of responsible to a point, and then things get handed off to your colleagues. So we handle all the website, and that is linked into automation. In our case, we use Active Campaign, which I'm a really big advocate of. I know that certainly other people use HubSpot is probably a big one that you've heard of also in this space, and I know there are others. And you can see just a little tiny screen capture there of some of what I get to see with Active Campaign. This is not ours. This is some generic person. We have over 1,000 contacts actually within ours. But it gives you a dashboard. You can keep track of people as they land on the website. It will alert you, and they earn or lose scoring depending on what kind of activities they're doing. So you can always have a pretty good sense of what the records are doing. So if I look up, Joe Smith, and he has been scoring up lately and has, let's say, 100 points based on things that I've assigned, I'll know that he's becoming kind of, at this point, more interested or a warmer prospect. I can share that with admissions in case they're starting to hear from him in another way also. One of the other things that we do through Active Campaign is use that to help market and drive the people in this pipeline. So again, in our case, we have about 1,000 of them. When we're going to have open houses, that's one of the things that we do with it. Also, to drive people to open houses just in general, right now, well, things are a little different, shall we say. We're relying very heavily on digital. We've cut back on a lot of our radio right now because most people aren't in their cars commuting. Again, emailing the pipeline, and we've been pushing pretty hard on PR too. So we do have an outside firm that works with me. Our team is very small, and there just would not be the bandwidth without somebody helping us. So those are some of the things we've been trying to do to kind of keep Harley in the public eye, keeping a drumbeat of PR, communicating through Active Campaign, as well as predominantly digital advertising right now. You can go ahead and hop along there. I know I could say next, but that seems boring. So, all right. And then this funnel pretty much shows where our handoff point is. So we're building the awareness. We're doing the lead capture through the Active Campaign. We maintain some prospect activity sort of tracking. And then the leads are, in effect, handed off to admissions, where they start to put them through their true process. So this is a pretty standard funnel. I'm sure yours are very similar, and we can move along. But one of the things that has come up that we've been thinking about a lot is, what do people need to be able to find virtually before we even get to an open house? And that obviously needs to be thought of in a very different way than it did previously. So what are some of the things that I want to make sure my prospects can find themselves or uncover themselves through our website? We want them to be able to get a sense of space of the school, as well as some of the features of what we're like physically, because they can't come in the door right now. They can't see it in another way. So we've had to figure out how to enhance that. We want to make sure that they can get a feel for what the school is like. So both the students, the philosophy, because again, normally families would be able to kind of come in, take a live tour, drop in, and all that has to be handled differently now. And I also want to make sure that people can very easily, of course, figure out how they can connect with admissions. So I'm hoping that we will have a conversation here a little bit, and I'm just wondering if there are other things that you feel people need to be able to find virtually now that maybe they were able to get other ways. So feel free to hop in and share your wisdom. If anybody has anything that we should add to this list. I was going to say, I definitely have spoken with communications people before, and I know you're not all this quiet and shy.
What about extracurricular activities?
Extracurriculars, good idea. Everybody write that down, all right? Anything else?
Yeah, we also use a lot of social media.
Yes.
A lot of parents want to know what is happening and how you are teaching virtually.
I would say a glimpse of who the head of school and the division directors are.
We get lots of questions on what the parent community is like.
I think they want to see what the kids look like.
Okay, these are all really great things for sure. And
Also,
I made sure to write them all down myself too.
Also, the ability to have the students as part of this virtual open house, students and parents.
Yes, yes, and we have done that actually for the middle and upper school. We've had parents in both, but all right, let's move ahead, Jim. Thank you. So one of the things we did pretty quickly was replace our Visit Our Campus page with a virtual visit page, right? So we changed things up a little bit, and I've thrown some screenshots in that we'll be looking at in a minute so you can see sort of what the rest of the page looks like. But again, that's one of the big switches that we made early on, was to think about how to set up a virtual tour page. So you can move ahead, Jim. All right. So one of the things that we were sort of lucky about is not too long before we were mandated to close, we had worked with Google to come on and do the tours for us. So they had filmed 3 separate areas. And we worked with something called Matterport, which is what you're seeing here. That gives, and again, I'll show a couple other pictures, but it sort of enhances this tour. It gives this kind of what's called a dollhouse view, as well as if you look in the bottom corner, it has navigation that people can use to hop around. So they can hop, they can see a floor plan. If you look next to that little red person there, you can see the floor plan. And next to that is, yes, thanks. And next to that is the levels, the different floors of the particular building. You can hop ahead here, Jim. All right, so within the Google tour then, you know, if you have ever seen those, you know that people can sort of step their way through. Matterport does offer you the ability to add photography within, and we have an example of that coming later. You can also add some video and audio, and we haven't done that yet, but we're in the works. So we're able to show our building. I know that Jim mentioned to me, and one of our staffers had a question too. They were like, well, you know, we don't want somebody to be able to see the entire campus layout. What if, you know, what if they are thinking nefarious things, right? So when we structured ours, we built it in separate pieces so that you can't quite tell how they're related. So rather than having one big walkthrough, like you see a lot on the college campuses, we've broken it up into sections. So we highlight one building, like this one that you see here is called our Commons building. We have another one that highlights our art wing. You go through a gallery, you go through where the seniors are, and then you see an upper school classroom. And within the Commons building, that also houses middle school. And then we did one that shows part of lower school, including one of the lower school classrooms. So we tried to give a flavor for each division. but we didn't do it in a way that it's related, like it wouldn't give somebody a campus map, so to speak. Jim, I do see something in the chat. I don't know if you're monitoring that or if I should be monitoring that. So, well, Nancy, hopefully I was able to answer that a little bit about how we approach that by splitting up the tour so that it's sort of blind when you don't get the whole building, if you will, or you don't get how it's all connected. Okay, we can move ahead. Whoop, there we go. Okay, so on the website then, as you scroll down from that first page, again, this is what one of them looks like. We have 3 in a row. We're going to have some audio as well down the side, but we don't have that yet. We've recorded it and just haven't had time to get around to editing it. And you can move on. Jim, I know you're out there somewhere. See, I was trying to get all fancy for you guys here. Uh-oh. Jim's
Did it work?
Left me high. Jim. Jim, where are you?
Can people hear me?
Yes.
I'm on page on the green part. Go Google Tour.
Yeah, if you can move one more ahead from there.
Okay, is that good?
Yep. Okay. So, so even though this is not our tour because we haven't added in the photography and things like that you can within a space, I thought you might just like to see what that can look like. A lot of realtors will use this for high-end houses where people might be looking, you know, if you've ever watched like International House Hunters, right? So this Matterport was actually originally something that was used within that market. But I think it's very appropriate for schools as well. So I'm gonna hop into chat for a second here. Are the Google tours very expensive? So I will assume that it varies somewhat from area to area. Ours was, I believe, between $700 and $800 to have the 3 done. And then the Matterport, you pay $50 a month to have that enhancement. So for us, it's definitely worth it, especially now when, again, there's no alternative. I feel like it's a pretty good way to help show off some space.
Did you say?
Jim, go ahead and move it.
Excuse me 1 second. Did you say $7,800 or $700 or $800?
It's between 700 and 800.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So, like I said, it wasn't quite the bank breaker that I thought it might be. It was all right. It was all right. Okay, let's move ahead here. Okay, another thing we did then on that same page, so if you continued scrolling down, we also built kind of this enhanced photo gallery for people that just don't ever want to move through a virtual tour. So the way that we set this up, you can see the photography, and then we just immediately tagged right in it, you know, some things that we wanted people to know, right? So you can see we've got the one that's Welcome to Harley, a unique approach to education, hands-on and life-changing. So even if somebody doesn't bother to read all these or even click through them, we've got some of our positioning points like right up front there. So again, trying to address different people behave in different ways on a website. Some people are going to want to take a tour, some people are not. Oh, let's see. We've got another question here. Oh, okay. So the Matterport adds in the dollhouse. It adds in the navigation where you can easily hop from floor to floor. It adds the ability to put in the audio, the video, and the photography. So it makes it much more robust. We can hop forward, Jim. Okay. So that was some of the stuff that we did to like lay the groundwork, but it wasn't that long before we felt that it was time to start trying to have an open house again. And I will tell you, we were not sure how it would go. We weren't sure if anybody would come. We weren't sure if anybody would be paying attention right now because there's just so many other things that parents take care of between work and now to some degree being teachers of their own children and managing their families in a completely different way. But we decided to go ahead and give it the old college try and see what happened. So we held 2 in April. And the way to split it was we put nursery and lower school in one and middle school, upper school in another. And another thing that got, I guess, a little tricky to think about or different to think about was what do you use for imagery, right? So our normal, happy, engaged kids with teachers and friends, it didn't seem like the right feel for the moment. So we ended up, for both of them, we used photography that was a single student, in this case for the lower school one, doing something hopefully like a little different that maybe most kids wouldn't have that at home, because I didn't want it to look exactly like what those parents would be seeing in their real homes, if you will, where the kids are just up at the computer or not at the computer at all and just like running around the house doing whatever, right? So we tried to find one that, spoke to some of what we do that's different, but also was reflecting what was going on. And you can see certainly the copy that we used in here, it's a little bit long, but our point is that we wanted to make sure that no matter what was happening, learning was thriving. And certainly in our marketplace compared to what our publics were able to do, like there's a huge difference between what the independent schools, any of them, are able to do compared to the publics. I don't know if that is true where you are as well, but it's like, it's really kind of in a way, a golden moment for us to show how different we are. You can move ahead there, Jim. Okay, so this was our lower school open house, and we had lots of people from Harley who took part in it. We have certainly the admissions team. We have one of our parent council, actually we have 2 of our parent council leaders, our head of school. We have a lower school parent. We had two lower school teachers as well as the division head on this. And the teachers were able to, I guess, speak more, like usually they're more observed, it's a more casual, they're, maybe teaching something and a tour comes through. But for this, they actually were able to be showcased in a little bit of a different way. So that was kind of nice. And people were very willing to participate. We got basically the same amount of people that we would get for like a regular open house that we would have normally had. So I'm going to just hop to the chat for a second here. Oh, how long did it take us to build the virtual tour? That was just a private question, but you know what? I'm going to answer it to everybody anyway. So it took about a half a day for the guy to come from, Google approved, to come and do the filming. And then I think it took them about a week to process it. I do have a very savvy webmaster on my team, and he was able to basically do one remote training with Matterport, and then he was just able to get all in. So I haven't done as much with it myself. I've pretty much left it to him and just talked about what we want to show. And like I said, worked on some audio scripts that aren't in there yet, and IDing some photography. So the RSVPs is another question. And that I think is a really great question, especially based on what I've heard happened here in Jim's first Zoom bombed conference. So all the advertising drives people to specific landing pages that I set up. And again, it's a little bit different in that the pages are very much driving people to our sign up form. Usually it's a little more, informal because they'll come or they won't come. But for this, like, we have to know ahead or they're not getting in. So that is one way that we built a list. I ran some Facebook ads that had some screening questions. So for that, I had people tell me the ages of their kids, supply their phone number and their email. I would turn that over to admissions. Admissions would call them or email them and give them the direct Zoom link. So when it started, behind the scenes, one of our admissions people ran the meeting, so to speak. And she, looked at her attendance list and screened and let everybody in that was on the list. We did not limit the number of attendees, but in our market, that's not really going to be, I think, a big, you know what I mean? We might have 20 people at the most, or 20 families represented. So it's not, we're not in that big of a market that we would run into that kind of an issue. We did not record it. And I'm sorry, Stacey, I don't understand exactly your second question. To fill out a form to receive access to it. Are you asking that you'd like to see the landing page? I can have Jim share that if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I was actually asking because we have done a virtual admissions coffee per se online, and right now it's just on our website. But my thought was, maybe should I have it to be where you have to fill out your name and at least email address so that I have a way to contact you, or should it just be readily available? I was wondering if what you guys had done, if you had recorded it.
Yeah, so again, we didn't record it, and because it was an open house and not something as casual as like a drop-in coffee,
right?
People were vetted. They were definitely vetted in for that.
Okay.
I'd be curious to have you share, maybe if you don't mind, for a minute about the coffee. What was that like? How did that go?
Well, so we did it. It wasn't a live coffee. It was a Zoom. We basically did a Zoom where myself and one of my other people in our admissions office basically did what we would have done in a casual open house setting and just recorded it. We input a student panel that I had pre-recorded in there. And so you can go to our website right now, to our virtual admissions page, and then you can just click on it to watch it. And so the thought process was, if you were still looking for a school right now, but didn't know when you could watch it, and I didn't know how many people we would have. I didn't want to have it and have just 2 people hop on. I would rather it be something that was like kind of a, whenever I have a chance to watch it, I can go watch it.
No, that sounds, Stacey, would you be willing to throw into the chat your website page? Thank you.
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Has anybody else done anything like that? I'd be curious, because we haven't done that yet, and I've thought about it. I've seen there are several colleges that have a piece kind of like that, they call it a virtual tour, you know, lives on YouTube, and you can just play it through. It's really a kind of a curated video. Thank you, Stacey.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Sure. All right. I'm going to hop back off chat here, and we can move ahead. Okay. So during the open house itself, we also were lucky that we had done a positioning video recently, because we did a campaign kickoff. And when we developed that, we developed it with 2 things in mind, knowing that we would use it for that, and also do a slightly different version that we would use for admissions. So we're actually going to watch the longer version, because that's what we showed people, but we have a 30-second and a 15-second that we can use for digital pre-roll. So fingers crossed this will run. Give it a click there, and let's see what we get. Hopefully we can hear it.
It worked a few minutes ago. It is.
Uh-oh.
I would give it a second. I started it and I watched half of it and I paused it, so it was.
Well, if we don't get it all, although if you're willing to try to stop it and restart it once more, you can look up the Harley School on YouTube and just go to all our videos, and you can find this one, even though it says Lives of Great Purpose Campaign, because that's what we used it for originally.
And Beth, I'll let this go, and if we want to go on to the next slide, so
Sure.
If we hear something, I'll pop back to that.
All right.
I don't want to redo the whole Google URL just in case. Oh, here we go.
Real joy contains both play and perseverance, beginning where passion always does, with delight in the play, wonder in the puzzle, grit in the perseverance, the ability to try again, to push through rough patches to
All right. Well, I'll just say it's a great video. I wrote the script myself. It's very aspirational, inspirational, that kind of a thing. It gives a certain overview. It's less than 2 minutes. So we were able to use that right kind of at the beginning.
Then you see the bigger world. You sense your place in it.
Yeah.
Ready to do my exercise. Oh, I'll read paper.
I wonder if
Alright, well, Jim, people will be able to look it up. I mean, they'll, you know, they get a little sense of kind of what it was, so that's okay.
And I'll let it keep going, and let me know if we can still hear it.
You affect the change you want to be. This is purpose. Purpose gets us off the couch. It builds communities and solves problems. Purpose makes friends.
Yeah, it might take a while. Maybe it plays every 10
Yeah,
seconds.
well, yeah. But it's all around our school's philosophy. We pinned it to the idea of having purpose. And like I said, it kind of did double duty on our campaign as well. So people had a little quick introduction with our admissions director and her team. We had this video, and then we can move on, Jim.
Okay.
You can just trust me. It's great. How's that sound? Right?
Can you see the next slide?
No.
It's
a brave new world here, Jim. New world. There we go. Okay. So, whoops. Actually, if you can back up one to the admission slides. There we go. Okay. So the very first one that we did, the lower school one, we did not include this piece. And after I sat in that, I decided to provide overview slides for admissions to use right at the beginning. So it just was able to give people who aren't auditory learners something to look at. And as you can see, I'm big on giving people something to look at, right? You're looking at something right now here. So gave a little overview of the school. The whole thing was only like 12 slides. A bunch of them were photos. So you can see we very carefully selected photos to give a sense of what people can't see in person right now. So that's our middle school podcasting. That's one of our electives that we have. And we actually had our school created Minecraft by 2 upper schoolers. So rather than showing our regular photo of our school, I put that in there because that gave admissions a story that they could talk about. And the story that they could talk about is that the upper school has a tradition of, and I don't even know exactly how you say it, but it's like super fun something week, and people team up and they do all these different things. And normally that's something they do in person, but they couldn't do it in person this year. So one of the pairs created Harley in Minecraft. So like I said, they gave her a nice little story, a nice little talking point that she could use. So again, the pictures are chosen to be sort of inroads to different things for admissions to use. We can jump ahead here, Jim. Okay, another thing too then that admissions set this up, but definitely on my recommendation. So we had them put together a run of show like you would for pretty much anything else that you were doing, from a press conference to whatever, right? So they gave a run of show document to all the speakers. It included talking points, and it also stated what the positioning was that they wanted people to keep in mind for this particular open house. So the positioning for this one is our independence, our small size, our excellent faculty enable us to be creative, nimble, and effective educators of our students, no matter where they may be. And you can see on the side then, we kind of broke down who was talking, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, and kind of the bullet points that they were going to be hitting, or that we hoped they would hit. I just need a little water here. So again, thinking of it as like a performance, if you will, just in a new space. We can move ahead. Okay, and then I did talk about this a little bit before, but I will reiterate it again, that we did set up a waiting room so that people had to be admitted to the Zoom conference. Well, and we do have a question here. Let's see. Are the speakers a combination of admin and faculty or just admissions? So ours were a big combo. They included 2 parent council reps, a divisional parent. When we did the upper school and middle school one, we actually had several upper schoolers who were part of it and did some talking. We had the division head, we had the head of school, and then the admission staff. So we had quite a variety of people that were available to answer questions and tell the Harley story in their own way. And it makes things very authentic in that sense. I was quite pleasantly pleased with how it went. Did we do a rehearsal run through? That's a great question. Not exactly. There was one faculty member who did do some coaching, like their own practice session. At that point, most of the other people had been doing so many things on Zoom and so many presentations that we didn't have everybody run through together. A little bit of that, though, is the personality of our school. We're not 100%, we don't come across 100% as this, we're a progressive school, so we aren't, hoity-toity, 100% polished every moment. There's a lot of humanity to what we do, and we want to make sure that comes across. So the guest list, I'll rewind a little bit too on that from what I mentioned earlier. So people were driven to a landing page, or with Facebook ads, we asked questions within there. Admissions then took that information from there, and then they sent out the Zoom link. So they contacted everybody either by email or phone. So by the time we got to the meeting, they knew everybody that had said they were going to show up. And that's different. When we do the in-person ones, we often have people who drop in that have not RSVP'd. It's more people don't RSVP, but for this one, they weren't getting in if they didn't, so. All right, so when we were done with an actual one of the open houses, admissions did their usual series of follow-ups, right? And they have, obviously changed it up. This is sort of the COVID edition, if you will. So every family received an individual email with video. And again, we're lucky we do have a staff videographer. So we have a really good bank of videos. Again, if you look up the Harley School on YouTube, you'll be able to see some of what we have out there. So depending on what the family's interest and division level was, they would get different videos sent to them. The prospects did the inquiry form ahead of the open house, but that was also included in the follow-up emails. They were invited to send up individual Google Meet appointments with admissions. The students can do virtual visits in all of the divisions. They also are doing the assessments for lower school virtually. So the faculty and the support specialists are doing that virtually. And then they also have become part of the active campaign pipeline that kind of gets my regular drip emails. Let's take a quick peek in the chat here and see what we've got. Let's see. Did we send the invitations and inquiries? Yes, we did through, so once they're in my active campaign, some of the drips that they're gonna get are, virtual open house coming up. Obviously, I try to mix it up so that not everything they get from us is, open house, blah, blah, blah. The virtual student visits. So that, because that is really handled more on the admission side, I don't know a lot about what they're doing for that. I would be happy to connect you with one of our admission staffers, though, if you'd like to ask them about that. Jim, when you send a follow-up note from this telling people that it's been recorded, do you put my contact info in it? Or can you? If you can, then I can, if you just remind me that you want to know about the virtual visits.
Yes, I can. I'm talking and I
Okay.
was muted, so I'm not.
Oh, is that what you're doing? All right, all right.
Yes, I can include your information.
Okay, sure, because that, I'm sure they'd be happy to take a minute and tell you what they've been doing about that. All right, and then we're really kind of at the end of what I wanted to formally cover. I was trying to make sure we had some time for Q&As. So if you want to hop to the very last slide, you know, just some thought starters that I'd be curious to know is, you know, what is your school trying? Have you tried any of these things? What kind of experiences have you had? Do you have any good advice or best practices to share with any of the rest of us? And did you do anything that you would like to warn us about so we don't do it? So if anybody has anything they'd like to share with the group, that'd be great. I think we've still got, what, like 20-ish minutes almost?
Mm-hmm. Yep, we have 20 minutes.
Okay.
Hi. My name's Kathy Gunderson, and I'm the Director of Admission at Rowland Hall. I don't know if I'm...
We can hear you.
We can hear you. Hi, Kathy.
Okay. I just wanted to warn people, I am about to do a virtual open house in 2 weeks, so I appreciate all of your thoughts and insights. I will definitely incorporate a lot of them in my own planning. However, I heard through the little grapevine that one of my colleagues attended a virtual open house, and the people that were hosting the open house didn't end the Zoom webinar at the end of the event, and they started talking among themselves about how the event went. So I am just here to say, end your event, set up another call to talk about the event, but don't leave yourself open to having your audience hear your assessment of your open house.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
It's like a mic drop, right? Isn't that what they call it?
What was that?
Isn't that what they call it, the mic drop, right? When it's still running?
Hot mic.
Yeah.
We call it a hot mic.
Hot mic, nice. Uh-oh. That's good advice. Thank you for sharing that. Does anybody else have any other comments or questions or things that they're doing or trying?
Yeah, Chandra Minor. I'm the principal of Our Ladies Academy in Waltham. And we're having a virtual open house on Monday and Tuesday of next week. And included in our open house, we do have a video, which we have created, which shows portions of the building, teachers teaching, it's specialist teachers, classroom teachers, extracurricular activities. It's all shown in this open house, in this video. I will be walking as I'm being videoed throughout the school, talking to parents, showing them different areas of interest in the building, and at the same time talking to them about the curriculum. As part of our open house, we are adding videos that we created during COVID-19 shutdown. And we created videos to reflect everything that the school would have done during that time. For example, we had our Grandparents' Day, but we did it virtually. So we had our science fair, and we did it virtually. We had, what else did we have? I'm running blank. Our band had a performance. We videotaped the band. So we will have all those things available for the parents to view at their leisure. So it will give them a good flavor of all that we do at the school. So that's basically what we're going to, and also we're going to have a chat session with parents, with students, teachers, so that if parents had any questions they wanted to ask, we had those people available there. And that's what we're doing.
So just to make sure that I'm clear. So for part of it, you'll be live, walking through being filmed.
Right.
Wow, that is really very interesting and very ambitious.
Well, because I'm used to it, I do it all the time.
Yeah.
It's second nature to me. So figured that's the best way to do it. Yeah.
Hi, Lauren Marlis. I'm at Mayfield Junior School in Pasadena. I'm the Director of Enrollment. all of you all who are doing virtual tours, do you normally have open houses in the spring? Like I'm grateful our school is full because we already finished up our admission season, and so we don't start up again until the fall, and we don't have rolling admissions. So are you, I mean, obviously we're all planning and being prepared for what might be, but I'm curious if you're normally doing open houses right now in the spring, or if you're just doing it to be proactive. Thank you.
So in our case, we do have rolling admissions and we normally go through the spring. I am wondering this year if we're actually going to have to do one over the summer, and that would be different. And we'll see where our numbers are and stuff, but.
I'm Karen Wooten from Glenelg Country School, and I just have we've done something like this, the virtual Discovery Day, and we call it Discovery Day, open house, whatever. We're doing another one next week. But from our experience, a couple pointers that I would like to share is making sure that you mute your participants or the guests upon entry to the Zoom conference. And ask them to keep their microphones on mute throughout while you're presenting so that you don't hear background noises from them that could distract everything. Your presenters, representatives from the school, I recommended to them that they, make sure that they're dressed professionally, that they enter the meeting about 10 minutes before the start time so that they're all there. And to look at the camera when they're presenting, because when everyone's looking at the screen or at yourself or other people, you don't seem as engaged with the others. And I've seen in other schools discovery, like a virtual thing where everyone's kind of looking down. No one really looks happy to be a part of the presentation. And then the only other thing is you can see on my title, I encouraged everyone to, they all have their name on there, but they can update it to what their role at the school is so that everyone watching it can see that right up front.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely a lot of those things we did too, but I'm not sure that we had people put their titles on. Like, that's great advice, Karen, for sure. I think we have a couple of things in chat, so let me take a quick peek at that. Yeah, somebody wanted to know if I'd share the form, so I'll send that to Jim and he can send that on so you can see the landing page. The virtual open house, in our case, it was scheduled for an hour, and that's roughly what it was. Does anyone use a background that is a school shot? We did do that. So everybody had a different part of the school behind them during the open house. And I see Sean hopped on here and said that the teachers for theirs used their actual classrooms as their backdrops. So that's pretty good too. That's kind of a nice touch because then you can reference it while you're in the open house. Any other thoughts, questions, sharing, advice?
Would anybody because I know somebody, and they might be in here now, there were a school from Florida that sent me an email question about sending and creating any new materials that would go out based on the past few weeks, what we've been having. My response to them was that I think people should create a small, whether it's a one sheet or a brochure that complements their materials that they have now, that showcases what they've been doing. I mean, some of you guys, the list goes on. And I think it was mentioned earlier that some of the, very respectfully, some of the public schools aren't, doing up to par with some of the private schools. So it is nice to have a bulleted list of things that people have been talking about and doing at your school. To me, that's nice.
All right, so we have a question about attendance. And again, I'll open this up to the rooms, so to speak. For us, our attendance was basically on par for what it would usually be. We did have probably a little uptick in what we usually see for upper school attendance at this particular time of year. The 7 p.m. time seemed okay. The people that had younger kids, either they were there and they were sitting or running or whatever, or they just, had gone to bed or were in another room. We have not looked at a weekend. That was another question. So did anybody else do a weekend, try a different time? Are they finding, the attendance to be what they're expecting? What are the rest of you seeing?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So we did all of our yield events. Our season's, hi Jim. Our season is pretty much over, but we did all of our yield events online, and we stuck to our original schedule. So we did have one by invitation yield event for all of our families of color on a Sunday, because that is when we typically have it. And since we had already published that, we put it out there. We did that. We had good attendance. Not as much good attendance as when we have a party, but it was good attendance.
Was it just for families of color?
Yeah, this particular yield event was. Yep. So they could meet other families of color in the community. So we had our own parents plus our current parents plus the new parents. It was a big thing. We had to use breakout rooms.
Wow.
Anybody on, because I've heard of this, people not using Zoom, but they're using webinars. Anybody feel there's a difference there, or has anybody done anything different like that? And somebody may be more educated than I am with the webinar versus the Zoom meeting.
Jim, I did a webinar as a virtual visit, and you have to get a pro license and you have to get a webinar add-on. So there's some cost. You can control your screen with slides, and the speakers are up in the corner, and it's pretty effective. And then participants can answer live questions, or they can do the chat questions.
Type them in, yeah.
You really need to train yourself to do the webinars though, because it's a lot to control. And when I did the Zoom tutorials, this is what I did over my March vacation. When I did the Zoom tutorials, they really recommended that 2 people host a webinar, but because nobody else had the license, I had gotten my own for 1 month. I was doing the hosting, and it's a lot to handle, but then you have a product that you can send to people, which is really helpful. And it's different than a meeting with all of our faces up on top. It's just the presenters. So I like the webinar, but it's a lot to learn how to use.
What I normally do when I have an open house is I follow up with a note to the parent, either on a postcard or a letter or whatever I'm doing at the time. So I plan on doing the same thing for all those that join the virtual open house, to follow up with the note, thanks for attending. We look forward to perhaps maybe having you come and visit when appropriate, if necessary, or to give them, of course, again, reiterate my contact information if they need any further, if they have any further questions or concerns that I can talk to them about. So it's that follow-up, follow-through.
So we have another chat comment and question. So Lauren shared that the middle school director created an educational philosophy that was directly in regard to virtual learning, and that then they were able to use that also for admissions, which I think is a strong thing to be able to do. So thank you for putting that in there, Lauren. And we have a question too, how did we advertise the open house? So quickly, I can run through again what we did, but I'm hoping other people can hop on board too. So I shifted a lot of things away from radio into digital. There's also something in our market called Kids Out and About, which is sort of the place where parents go if they want to know what's going on for their kids. Their sweet spot is probably toddlers start at age 12. And I have a long-term relationship with them. So they do e-newsletters, they host video, and then they have, kind of spot ads and stuff that they can sell around. So if you're in a market where they exist, for us in Rochester, that's a good place. We did a lot of Google advertising, and Facebook/Instagram. And like I said, with the Facebook, for some of it, I had it where it was screening people in with some questions that were part of their registering. They could register online for it right in Facebook. So the only thing that was bad about that was it meant that we had two different streams of people registering. So I kept track of the Facebook one, and admissions kept track of the ones that were coming in through basically in through the pipeline through the front of Active Campaign. It would send them a note as well. But what about other people? Are there things that you're doing differently, or how are you letting people know right now? Hoping, magic. Everybody's being so quiet, Jim. I don't know. Do you have anything to say on that, Jim? Any thoughts about how to reach people right now?
I think everybody has a I don't know if it's gender related, but I know Karen's on a New Canaan Moms Facebook chat, and I'll tell you, that's probably the most powerful thing I've ever seen. So I think if towns have like their own typical Facebook chat, that's pretty powerful.
Anybody else? Any other thoughts? Anything that has been working in particular, or anything that you've shifted around?
Well, I have parent mentors, and they usually meet with the new parents and all that kind of stuff. And I really stressed to them how important word of mouth. They know how important word of mouth is, but I really stressed that in this time where everyone's isolated, we want to remind people about the importance of word of mouth, because it's not happening in a natural way on baseball fields and in grocery stores and all those places, in restaurants, all those places where they normally do. And so I'm asking them to be more proactive in that way.
I also
Yes, we did that too. Oh, no, go ahead, Jim.
No, I was going to say, I think it's what Karen said from Glenelg about I think everybody wants to hear and see the students and what they have to say, depending on what divisions you have at the school and how old the students are. But to kind of prep them, I guess you even have to do that with the teachers. And Karen mentioned that.
Oh, you do. Mm.
We've all seen Zoom meetings that have gone wrong, or have heard teachers' Zoom meetings that have gone, a little goofy and stuff. And I think you almost have to remind some of these people that if you have a dress code a certain way, you should be, looking that way in the Zoom meetings. Or I love to almost do what Karen mentioned, like look at the camera, look right into the camera. You almost have to do a little acting course on how to talk to people in a Zoom meeting. And I think that that's a great idea. It's like, just have a little reminder, or here's a tutorial on how to, like a 3-minute tutorial on how to talk during a Zoom meeting.
Right. So don't light yourself like I'm lit right now with my Darth Vader look here. I couldn't bring myself to close my window because the sun is shining and we don't get a lot of sun here in Rochester. But if it was an admissions event, I'd make sure you could see more of my face. So.
I have one question. My name is Brandy Cooper. I'm from Trinity School in West Texas. And we are actually going to do something a little bit different than the virtual tour or open house to prospective families, but we're actually going to reach out and do an open house for families who are new families. And wondering if any other schools have done this and what they've found that families are really looking for, other than, the obvious of how we're looking to, or like what we've been doing through remote learning and what that looks like as we progress. But just wondering if anybody has embarked down this or traveled down this road before, and if they have any suggestions.
You may want to be proactive or be prepared for them asking about tuition. I mean, maybe that's stating the obvious, that's the elephant in the room, but we did push out communication about tuition and different needs and who to contact and what our philosophy is. And we had our benefit last week, and we did a paddle raise for money for financial aid. But the new parents, the feedback I've been getting and the questions I've been getting from new parents is, I bought this whole program, and if you're virtual, what does that do? So I would just caution you to be prepared for that kind of question if you haven't had it already.
Thank
Well, a question
Pamela is here from Milton Academy. I just have a question. I'm curious. Is things
Can you repeat that question?
Yeah, we've got bad audio for you, unfortunately.
Or maybe type it really quickly if you want to.
how might that look versus
Is that my connection? I'm not sure if that's.
forward?
Can people hear me?
We can hear you, but we couldn't make out what Pamela was saying.
Okay, so she is writing that the connection's a little bit bad. But Pamela, if you can type something really quick. I hope that in 6 months from now or 12 months that we're going to create the best small little guide to what schools can do going forward, because there's going to be a lot of creativity going on.
Yeah, while we're waiting for Pamela, I had a question asked of me today by a prospective parent. Well, I'm not sure if I want to register. Will you be open in September? So my response to her was, yes, we are working towards that. And then I said to her, maybe there was a better answer, but I said, well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. She caught me off guard. I didn't know what to say. Any recommendations?
So, we always just say we are planning to open. As of right now, nobody's told us we can't. So, but behind the scenes, of course, we have 80 contingency plans, right?
I know that.
So,
okay, so I wasn't that far off. That's what I said.
But also check your websites. I've seen a few websites where the pop-up window that comes up states that the school has been closed, and it wasn't worded correctly. It basically said we have closed the school for the remainder of the school year, but they don't explain that they actually went virtual. So in a visitor's eyes, people may see that, especially if a family's shopping around, saying, oh, I didn't understand. I didn't think that you guys stayed and were in business still. But
what we did is, we created a flyer and put it right on the landing page of our website, and it says, COVID-19, Our Ladies Academy is gone virtual, and we listed all the platforms that we're using. But that's right on the landing page.
Mm-hmm. Pam's question was, I was asking how the fall may look for tours, visits versus spring, using the crystal ball to forecast how we may trying to adapt to the different methods to reach families.
I feel like I'm talking a lot, but I have been thinking about this. We usually do about 4 open houses a year, and we have about 100 to 125 people at each of those open houses. Wow. And that we're going to go likely to very small tours twice a week, with 10 people, assuming that we're back on campus. That's what I'm thinking right now. Of course, it's still only May, so we'll see.
What some schools around here have been doing, and I've been contemplating it myself, is having, say, a drop-in Wednesday. So every Wednesday, you probably heard about it, right? Families can come in, we're prepared as if, you know, for visitors and so forth. And the faculty is prepared, yeah.
But what the thing I worry about with that is, what if you get too many people? Because if we can only be together in very small groups.
Right.
Oh, well, that's a whole other.
You may want to have a sign up first.
Yeah. Well, that was pre-COVID-19. Yeah.
Also, Beth, when she explained and showed a couple of like the examples in the flow of how her open house flows, they have a video that pops up.
Right.
I know a lot of schools that are out there may not have budgets or the staff to create videos, but you can easily ask your kids or be a little creative if you have a little downtime to take any promotional photos that you've done and documented over the years or over the past year, and create a little iMovie with some nice music behind it to just show happy faces and what life is really like on campus. So, you know, a lot of schools out there think, you know, marketing is a very bad word and they don't want to spend any money to document their school. But if there's any photos, it may not cost as much. One, because you don't have access to campus to videotape, but if there's photos floating around, you could, you know, create a nice, the 2-minute slideshow, because you do want a nice presentation at the open house, not just a in-your-face Zoom with all the faces staring at you and all that stuff. So I loved how Beth's flow example was.
Right.
It's like perfect, and there's some schools out there saying, I don't have that, or how can I get that? iMovie, you can create those in your on your computer, and if you have any teenagers, they can definitely help you out on that one. So
my name's Melanie Harmon. I am the Director of Enrollment at New City in St. Louis. And in terms of the tours for the upcoming year, I already have always done 2 tours a week. One for pre-primary families and one for older families. And they're set on our website, and you sign up on our website, and I cut it off at 4 families. So there's only 8 people max. So, I mean, in terms of getting in the building, not being able to do a large open house, we already did that. So I'll continue that, but that's another way to keep the crowd down, but still have people in the building. It's a lot because it's all year long, and I still do an open house every month, but it's a way in this situation to help control the crowd.
has anybody thought of actually, you know, controlling the number of people and having them still visit the campus, but just stay, you know, 6 feet apart, or, you know, stay, you know, a distance apart, and you still do a tour, not inside the building, but around the building? Does that popped into anybody's mind? Especially if you have a campus that showcases really well. I mean, it's one of those things that, you know, we're talking constant virtualness, but it is possible to invite, you know, and have a open house of 3 or 4 families, or a minimum of like 4 people attend, if it's that, you know, if it works. I know some states are stricter than others, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Did I just say a taboo thing? I don't know if that was really.
No, you didn't. You didn't. No, I'm just thinking that I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to arrange a graduation outside on the campus, keeping in mind everyone has to be 6 feet apart and all of this, and I'm getting some flack. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jim, I see that we've managed to keep ourselves rolling here after 5. So I just wanted to hop on and say thanks again for having me. And it was great to meet all of you virtually. And hopefully some of this was helpful to you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Beth.
you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, it was fun.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.